In the shadows of society, where secrets linger and truth is buried, stories of betrayal, murder, and mysteries unfold. Welcome to Occupation Murderer, where we dwell into the darkest corners of the human mind, one chilling tale at a time. So, welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive into the twisted crimes of Rodney Alcala. In part 1, we uncovered his dark past and the horrifying encounters that Tali Shapiro and Morgan Rowan miraculously survived, but not everyone was so lucky. In this episode, we're going to explore the gruesome fate of his other victims and the shocking way he played a deadly game of cat and mouse. Listener discretion is strongly advised because what you're about to hear is truly disturbing. I'm Nevaeh. Come with me to investigate this case. So, when he began luring his victims, he was asking them if they wanted to model for his photography. But he would also sometimes first kill them and then take the pictures. So, he would ask them and then murder them before, but not each time. Some of those pictures were sexual. He took many pictures of his victims in vulnerable or intimate poses. He used manipulation to get these pictures and do this. Every time the detective searched places he was found, they found more pictures of more girls, but not all of his pictures were explicit. Some appeared to be more standard portrait photography. They were of their face and everything, and kind of like a senior portrait, and just appropriate pictures, so he could keep up the professional photographer act. The authorities did release many of the pictures of the victims, and because they were trying to identify them, and some of the victims still remain unknown. Rodney's next victim was Cornelia Michael Crilly. She was 23, a flight attendant for Transworld Airlines. Her boyfriend found her door locked and tried reaching her through phone calls. And he was unable to reach her, so he called the police and they came. When they got into the door, they found her body naked, a bite mark on her breast, strangling. She was strangled with a nylon stocking and a silk scarf stuck in her mouth. Rodney had raped her and strangled her. Around 1977, Ellen Hoover went missing. The detective did a lot of work looking for Ellen and found where she marked her calendar that she was going to see someone named John Berger, and on that date she disappeared. So basically, she was booking her photography session, I'm assuming, as a way to for most people, they do photography or photo shoots to make themselves feel better about themselves, kinda, and look pretty or feel pretty. But the detective did a lot of work looking for her. Her body was found a year later, buried in the grounds of Phelps Memorial Hospital in Westchester near the Rockefeller Estate. 12-year-old Robin Samso was killed in 1979. She was on the way to her ballet lessons, but stopped at the beach to hang out with her friend Bridget. Alcala had came up to them and asked if he could take their pictures, and Robin said sure. Bridget's neighbor showed up out of nowhere and asked if everything was okay. I'm sure that the neighbor was a little just trying to be protective, kinda, because there was a grown man approaching to I'm assuming Bridget was also 12 or around 12, 13 maybe, and just trying to make sure that they were okay and that man wasn't going to do anything. And so, yeah. But when he showed up, Alcala was visibly upset and he left. Robin later left, and Bridget told her to take her bike and don't stop. and that was the last time anyone saw Robin alive. The police then questioned Bridget, aka the last person to see her alive, and she told them it was the man who took their picture. Days after Robin went missing, a fire crew found a body of a child, and it was 12 days after she had went missing, because animals were able to scavenge her remains. It took 3 days to identify her because she was just bones, and I'm assuming that's just because of all the animals that were eating at her. She was 40 miles from where she was last seen, so that's like a really long time. Due to the state of her remains, the cause of death was unknown, but authorities believe she was sexually assaulted before killed. Another victim is Christine Ruth Thornton. She had met Rodney in San Antonio around August 1977. Alcala allegedly dumped her body on a ranch in Granger? She had been missing for 40 years. 40 years is a long time. Like, how long? Because if she was found if they met in August 77, then that would have been like 2010 that her body was found, which is insane. They couldn't identify her in 1982 due to the lack of forensic technology, so by 2010 she was identified. She was 6 months pregnant when she was strangled to death. Rodney had taken a picture of her and she was in a yellow shirt, and that picture was one of many released by the police. Sweetwater County and prosecuting attorney Danny Aramus says the clothing that she's wearing in the picture is the clothing that were with her remains. The jewelry that was on her hand in the picture is the jewelry that was there with the remains. She was pregnant when the picture was taken, and with her body was the remains of an unborn child as well. So not only did he kill Christine, but he also basically killed an unborn child. In 1980, Rodney was sentenced to death for the murder of Robin Samso, but his conviction was overturned twice on different technicalities before he was finally sentenced to death for her murder and the 1970s rapes and murders of Georgia. Wicks, Joel Panter, Charlotte Lamb, and 18-year-old New York runaway Jill Barcombe, all of them in Los Angeles. He was convicted of 8 murders, but authorities believed he killed dozens more, around 130. 130 is insane. Honestly, I am not surprised about the number because most serial killers and psychopaths, I feel like they make it a point to get that number as high as they possibly can, and I just don't understand why. Dozens of people testified against him, and his convictions led to the death penalty, but he later died in prison in 2021 at 77 years old. He died 4 years ago. Oh my goodness. I feel like we could dive deeper into this, but since he's dead, there's really not a point, I guess. But that's like awful, and I wish everyone in those families like the best of luck, and like I'm glad that they got the justice for their loved one with that man that was in jail and him passing away. I'm so happy for the families. But thank you for joining me on today's episode. I hope the chilling tale you heard leaves you questioning everything you thought you knew. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Until next time, stay safe.